All right, the hour of 7:10 having arrived in the absence of Council President Tome and hearing no objection up here, I will run the committee of the whole meeting. All right, roll call. Ann will take the roll.
Crombie.
Here.
Hendrickson.
Here.
Malat.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Rule.
Here.
Tome is excused. Traxler.
Here.
All right, this meeting was noticed in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on approving the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Citizen comments, were there any citizens present that wish to speak? Seeing none, we have number 5, discuss and consider DOT project to resurface Highway 73, Faith Drive to Heritage Way. We do have Jim Simpson from the DOT here. He just wanted to say something when we start.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I just mainly wanted to come here and be able to answer your questions. I know I looked at your packet this afternoon and I saw that in the packet there's a resolution to include bike lanes on this portion of the road, and also there's a state and municipal agreement. And if you noticed in the discussion, with the addition of the bike lanes, it actually lowers the amount of the funding that would be your portion of the project. So I like to think that's a positive thing for you guys, and like I said, I'd like to talk to you and answer any questions. There has been some discussion. I don't know if it's something you want to talk about at the meeting tonight, as far as if you'd prefer to have this project be built in 2017 or 2018. I'll leave that up to you guys. Thank you.
Do you just want to get rid of this portion of road? Why are you doing this? Why are you giving us such a good deal?
My understanding, this was prior to, I'm the project manager in what we call project development. So I get handed the project after it gets out of a department that we call scoping. And my understanding from the scoping engineer is this was actually brought to them by the request of the city of Columbus to be able to, say, move the connection limits, which with the moving of the connection limits, what it gives the city of Columbus is the access control for the roadway and also the additional funding for the maintenance of that. But you would then be responsible for the maintenance. Is that, I guess, I don't know, I'm speaking out of turn, but if Patrick wants to add to that, he's more historical than me.
I can back up what Jim's saying. This, I think, was shortly after I was hired, that just in discussion among staff, it felt like it was in our best interest to explore that. The fact that we could get a good stretch of roadway repaired, resurfaced, and obtain the access jurisdiction for the stretch seemed like a good thing to discuss with the DOT. So that's where this started, and some will recall that were on the council at the time we brought this and talked about it. Talked about at that time having the parking lanes on both sides to where the city's share of the project was a little bit higher than what it shows now with the changes that Jim mentioned about the bike lanes. So something that city staff felt was worth exploring, and so here we are.
And if I could add, we, through our design process and knowing and looking at the Highway 16 project that will be built next year, we were looking at mimicking that with the bike lanes and just looking at the use of the parking out there. We thought it could accommodate, but that's up to interpretation and your opinions too.
I had Andy first.
A couple things. I did a little research on this, and from when the meeting it came up in the past, it was presented at that time that the depth of the road was 3.5 inches, and now I believe it's saying it's more, and so a mill and overlay if it really was 3.5, I mean, was it 3.5 or was it really more back then? And now it's, now you're saying it's more. So I guess putting a mill and overlay over what's there really wouldn't be beneficial. So can someone answer what the actual depth is of the pavement in that stretch? I mean, has there been any sampling done?
I guess our as-built plans show that it was 5.5 inches, so we'd be milling, let me look. We are milling 3.5 inches off approximately and putting 3.5 inches back down, but the current pavement thickness is 5.5.
Okay. And the utilities that are underneath it, have we assessed that? I mean, would there be any need to replace anything?
If Jason wants to chime in, but we wouldn't have gone this route if there were issues with the utilities and the need to eventually have a greater reconstruction. And Jason's coming up, so he can help.
Okay. Appreciate
Feel
it.
better with him talking about it.
Yeah, evening council. The utilities through that section are primarily either not under the roadway or they don't exist. So there are a few utilities under the road, but for example, as we go out towards the hospital, the water main is in the terrace, and it's been installed in an easement out there. There is some storm sewer, but that was obviously done as part of the DOT reconstruction the last time, and obviously that was all done per standards, and it's concrete storm sewer, so that's all in good shape. And there's limited sanitary out there, because if you remember, 73 kind of runs down the ridge line, so all the sewer kind of runs off to away from the road, if you will. So in that case, there's very little utilities under this stretch as it exists. So, and what's there, we feel is in good shape. So.
Rod?
How long will a 3.5-inch mill and overlay last? Is that a 20-year thing, or?
I've been told that traditionally it's 10 to 15 years.
10 to 15.
Would we have any concerns with that section, the road surface at the 3.5-inch depth to the 5.5-inch depth? Meaning, are we just going to put good road on top of bad road and watch that tops, that mill and overlay deteriorate even faster than 10 to 15 years? Because it's just such a heavily traveled truck corridor.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I can emphatically say it won't have some, premature failure over if you reconstructed the road entirely. But my belief here is that, again, this road, when it was last reconstructed, was reconstructed as a DOT project to the full depth. And typically when the DOT does it, such as next year's project, there's ample stone base put in. And obviously with the thickness of the pavement that Jim had mentioned, it's a very thick pavement section for the truck traffic as well. So, I would believe that everything that would remain under there is very solid. Now, there is some deterioration of the pavement now. My belief on that is obviously it's just aged pavement more than true road failure. And by obviously putting a new surface on, going back to the comment about the life of it, it will crack. All flexible pavement cracks. We'll have to maintain it. But if it's done like we have a plan in place now where we do regular maintenance and seal up the cracks, obviously it in my opinion, will be able to get it to last significantly longer than what the design life is if you take care of it. And we've had all those discussions in the past. So it's, certainly it would be ideal to replace it all, but in this case, with the cost the city would be incurring for this size of project, it's obviously just a fraction of the cost for something that should last quite a bit longer and be much better. I will mention that I did just talk to Jim as he's kind of the project manager just coming onto this job. I did have some concerns about some little minor drainage issues being fixed along that corridor. And Jim did say just now that they did have an engineer out to take a look at it, and they did identify a few things, but they are removing the curbs at the ramps to make it ADA compliant, because there are a few intersections where there's going to need to be some ramp and curb replacement for that. But also, I certainly would want to make sure, because water is the enemy of all pavement failure. That is the cause. So I want to make sure that if there are some drainage issues out there that I do know exist, because like many of you, I drive it every day. That we address those during the mill and overlay to help extend the life of the pavement as well.
Can you tell me when that road was reconstructed? This section of 73.
1992.
2 or 3.
2.
I think it was
Just
over a
2.
2-year
That
period.
makes me worry about those bottom 2 inches more. Just saying.
Other questions for Jim or Jason? Seeing none, then how does the council wish to proceed with this item?
Yeah, I think with the absence of President Tome, I think maybe we should bring it back to the next committee of the whole for further discussion.
I favor tabling it till the 20th as well.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion and a second table.
Yeah.
Any objection to discussion on the 20th on this item? All right, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
just also too, I mean, the element of the city share, between now and the next meeting, we can come up with some thoughts on the funding piece of it too, so.
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay. Item 6, discuss and consider contract with Columbia County for waste collection for 2017 and discuss process for possible implementation of automated collection. Greg from the county is here. Do you want to start off by introducing it or anything you want to say to the council?
Good evening. I just wanted to say I think we've got a pretty good framework for a contract working with Patrick over the last week put together here. We've got the information there for the rates for when we switch over to carts as well as weekly and every other week. So everything's pretty much specified out in the contract. I don't know if there's any specific questions that you have or any language in there that you may want to change or to see a little differently. But what I did was I took the framework from some of our other contracts that we have with some of our other municipalities, and I added in your information and some of the things that, you know, were in your request for proposals to put the contract together, so.
All right. Rod?
The 30-yard dumpster, who do we get that from now? Is that from the county or
That comes from Advanced, I believe. right?
Advanced?
Yeah.
So it'd be just replacing that.
We
Is that-
just replaced that and put one of ours out there.
Is that about the same price?
I believe the quoted price was lower than what we pay them
Okay.
now.
And the letter E, the spring cleanup, how would that work? Is that sort of like the dumpster, except people can come?
That's what we had been talking about.
We had talked
Yep.
about that, correct.
Okay, you wouldn't come by and pick up stuff. We'd have to bring it to you.
We could do it either way. We could do it where we came by on pick one day,
Yeah.
or we just come through,
A
or, you know,
one-time.
Yep, one-time shot kind of through the whole city, and we do that. We'd send basically rear load trucks out, which you can just throw the stuff in the back, and, you know, some of the heavy bulky stuff. We could do that.
And you'd
yes.
have a list of things that
We'd have a
could
list
put-
of items that we could take, correct.
Okay.
And it's mostly bulky items, furniture,
Yeah.
mattresses, those type of things.
The option Rod brought up about going door to door, so to speak, would assume that's a more expensive.
No, I'd do it for the same price we quoted in there.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Greg? And we would work together on on going to automate it at some point in the future.
Correct, and, you know, that's kind of totally up to when you want to convert it over. I need a couple of months lead time just to order carts. I've already talked to a couple cart manufacturers, got some pricing just to get prepared for it. When you're ready to kind of start thinking about switching over, I can have some samples delivered here so that people can see the different, you know, sizes and see what kind of get an idea what they look like. That's not an issue either, but, so, you know, be nice to get through the winter months and, you know, maybe do it in spring or summer. You know, it's kind of tough to make those kind of changeovers when you're dealing with snow and ice and delivering carts. So, but we're definitely ready to go at any time with the cart conversion.
All right, sounds good. So that would be then, you think, another separate meeting at some point to discuss that further? February, March timeframe, or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
What I would suggest is having myself and Greg work a little bit on that and develop a transition plan, something that would identify how the public would be educated and then timeframes for when the actual implementation, you know, when the carts would be delivered and how it would all work out. So then you can all see that and
Yeah, because you may want to decide if you want to, if everyone's going to have the same size cart, or if you want to do a mailing, gives people a one-time opportunity to go with a smaller cart, senior citizens and people, a single-family type, or the only one person in the household. They may not want a 96-gallon cart, don't have room. So in other communities, we've given them the option to have a 64. We need to know that information up front so we know kind of how many carts we need to be ordering. Obviously, we'll have some extras, and because people change their minds once we get them. There's always, when you switch over, some issues that come up. But
Andy?
Have we looked at, let's see what, I think it was Chief Meister who said something about the ordinance. Have we looked at that, and does that need to be addressed before we can even switch to carts?
There are, I took a real quick look through it after the last meeting, and there are 4 or 5 small changes that are going to need to be made, and we can bring that forward whenever, in advance of the actual switchover. Or I can bring that forward whenever you're ready for it, actually. Probably sooner instead of later.
'Cause I know some people don't have storage in their garage and probably need to make some changes.
All right. Anything further? And seeing none, this will come to the next meeting for approval, because they'll be starting in the first of the year.
correct, and we'll be ready to go on January 2nd then. So.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Item 7, we have review and discuss City Rec Boys Basketball Program. I think this was placed at the request of Alder Hendrickson.
It
Or-
was.
Okay. I don't know if you want to start then, or who wants to
I can. I know Patrick sent out an email earlier today indicating that there was a meeting taking place. So if you want to start there, maybe.
Sure. Just a quick overview. As you all recall, the city went into an agreement with the Columbus Courtside organization a short while ago about how the setup would be for the boys basketball recreation program. As those seasons or programs begin here, there was some concerns raised by parents and coaches in the 7th grade level about competitive balance and scheduling and how it is all going to come together, which prompted these concerns and the need to discuss it. Since I became aware of and been working with Amy Jo, we've been trying to communicate with all the parties, and I've had discussions over the weekend with representatives from the CCO and representatives from that coach and in the 7th grade, with a hope that we could find a resolution. And at the meeting this evening, we gathered, and I think we all came out feeling very, very good about things. What I think that was needed was essentially that, to have the folks most concerned to be sitting around and bringing out the facts about one concern and another. And the Basketball Development League is this new league that the program is going into. There's a little apprehension about the competitive nature versus the recreational nature. I believe that both sides have a better understanding of each other going forward, and coming out of it, this 7th grade coach wants to try it, and with a clear communication process for when issues might come up, or if he's got concerns or things that he's seeing that are actually going to happen that he had concerns about, if you can see what I'm trying to say there. But I just felt all the groups had to just talk it out, and thankfully I think everyone came to a common ground, and at this point I think all involved, at least in that group, are feeling good.
So, are there action items going forward that to address some of the communication breakdowns?
Yes,
concerns?
actually, one of the coaches or members of the CCO body is also a member of the faculty at the middle school. So we set up a line of communications for if there are issues, there should be some communication there. We thought that was best because the faculty member also being a coach and involved in basketball knows the kids and knows and understands the concerns, and I think that's going to be helpful going forward. I just think what created this was just misunderstandings on both sides, and coming together and just revealing thoughts and more of the facts that people are more comfortable. That being said, I think that, and as the agreement came together in the spirit of the rec committee, it was supposed to be a trial this year. And so it remains to be seen. It is still considered a trial, I believe, from the city's perspective. So.
Yeah, I guess my comments on that would be, to learn what we can from this going forward for next year. I think there's probably some great takeaways. I know, Reagan, you're on the rec committee. And my involvement in this is just that I've been getting some feedback from some of my constituents that it does sound like there was a lot of miscommunication, or at least misunderstanding going on between these groups along the lines of where we had concerns when we entered into the contract about the different skill levels and who's playing on what team. I think if there was a resolution between all the parties today during a discussion and everyone feels good that was is going to resolve it, then we'll go that direction. I know we had talked about the contract, and you have provided that in our packets. And I guess just for my edification, in looking through it, I know one of the comments was that there was a concern that it would be a breach of contract, at least that they were bringing that. And I don't know, Attorney Johnson, if you've had a chance to look through it, but I guess I don't see where there's an exclusivity agreement in this contract. So I'm wondering where that concern came from for future reference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of anything. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
in
aware of
general,
anything
the city can contract
with whoever it
with
wants.
whomever and however many rec leagues they want to, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else?
Who's determining if they're following through on number 9? But the teams. I mean,
Good
The,
question.
the
Like-
coaches.
Problem in the first
Well, they haven't had any games yet, I don't
Number
think.
9's the,
Every effort to get get
That's
everybody
the
moving along.
highlight.
$64,000 question.
The one that took the most amount of time for you to agree on the first time around.
So, first of all, thank you, Patrick. I think we came to a good agreement this evening. That seventh grade team is gonna try the BDL and give it their best effort and see what happens. I think we came to an understanding that if it doesn't work and the teams are not doing well, that they will see if they can get them pulled out. So hopefully that'll alleviate any problems. But in regards to number 9, like Patrick mentioned, we do have a liaison that he has no skin in the game. He has no kids that are playing, so he's actually going to act as a voice for parents to talk to and to stay in constant communication with the rec department. So I think by hearing customer and or parent feedback, that's going to give a good guide for us to know if this is something we should do moving forward. So
the liaison has no ties to the BDL or the rec committee or
he has none.
none? Okay.
Nope. Which I thought was a great move on this whole agreement coming together, because 6th grade was another grade that we had a lot of problems with. I don't know if that's the right word, but having this person in that position really made everybody happy. We had everybody signed up that we anticipated would sign up. So the numbers are good.
I just have a follow-up question on the liaison role. Is that person going to be actively seeking out input or passively waiting for input to come to them?
Kind of both, Regan. I know that myself, along with my rec committee, will be sending out a survey
Okay.
after the first couple of weeks to see what the parents feel. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And I will just keep up on that, and this liaison will be copied in on anything. And he's also agreed that if he does get a complaint or even positive feedback, he'll share that with me as well.
So I have a question. What was the main point of contention then? Because it's kind of convoluted in my mind here. Is it basing teams on skill level, or was it they didn't necessarily trust the development league of BDL? Like, or they didn't like it. Trust might not be the right word, but didn't appreciate that. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how we came to a resolution.
I think,
Are they accepting of the splitting on skill level? Are they accepting of, obviously they're accepting of playing in the development league, right?
yeah.
Because I think that's a key part of this miscommunication is that skill development split.
What I heard through the various conversations I had, there were two issues. One was the trust or understanding that the BDL would address that competitive versus recreational level, and whether this team that would be fielded would be competitive in that, you know,
In the development
yeah,
league?
will they be able to compete? And what, if we touch on that one through our discussion today, the message was that even the BDL has made some adjustments in the last year to address the issues like that amongst all the communities, that they have to try to maintain the competitive versus recreational developmental levels.
The developmental league was new this year, right?
Correct.
Right.
Wasn't that one of their
Yep.
resolutions to?
And that's one of the reasons I think the Recreation Committee liked this, because they do have the differences between the two. And obviously, it's a learning curve for them as well this year, because they're going to be moving things around as well.
So, yeah, so I think some of the contention was just concerned about how the BDL was in years past. But the CCO, from my understanding, wanted to continue with the BDL because of the actions that the BDL has taken to try to weed out some of those concerns. And I think what everyone around the table felt at the end of the conversation was, okay, well, the BDL's trying, we should give it a try as well. The other point was concerns about, yes, the separation of the players on each team. This particular coach was really not concerned about the better players or whatever. He said, I care about this team. But the fact of the matter is that he had some players that had some issues, or just even having a skill that they need to field a team. And we talked about that as well, in terms of, making adjustments and communication between both teams to make sure that, you need a point guard. Our point guard's going to be gone this week. Can we work with the other team to get one? That kind of thing. And I think talking it out helped on that front as well.
So they're allowed to move between teams?
Yeah.
Because I think that was another point of miscommunication when this whole thing was getting going, was can they truly float from competitive to development back to competitive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
go ahead.
One of the things that was brought out about BDL is if they're selling their experience on the premise that they'll have a competitive league and a rec league, they also have to watch in the fact that if they have too many in the developmental rec league and their teams are too talented, they got to be able to adjust. Otherwise, the participating communities aren't going to trust what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to address those issues, and if things continue to be the same way, then they're probably going to lose participating programs.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Amy, anything else?
No.
All right. Yep.
Who is the liaison to this?
John Crombie.
In the interest of full disclosure, that is my cousin.
Oh, okay. I mean, I figured there was some relation. In the name. All right, thank you.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Number 8, Consider R&M task survey task order Highway 89 and TIF 4 utilities. We have Jason. And he's here to do some surveying work. Mount Rushmore is actually 3 land surveyors and that other guy. So I'll get my land surveying jokes out of the way, and now
Thank
you
God.
can
Thank you.
proceed.
I asked Patrick if he would be willing to entertain a cow agenda item for this. The reason being is as we obviously start moving towards the end of the year here, there's just recently made aware to me there's a request by the DOT on the State Highway 89 project, which we're under SMA for, to do 30% design on utilities, much like the James Street project. We'd be replacing these utilities under the road where they haven't recently been replaced or need to be resized or upgraded. And with that being said, we've known, or I've known for a time, and I think we've all known for a time, that this project is kind of getting kicked off. There was a scoping meeting recently, and it's starting to get some traction at the DOT. And so when the email came out and said 30% plans by January 1 of 2017, I kind of went, whoa, wait a minute. We really haven't even mobilized or started on this yet on our end. Now, much like the last project, the DOT's engineers have gone out and picked up survey that's required to rebuild the streets, but what they typically don't do is pick up the survey that we need to design the infrastructure underneath the road. And so although we can use a lot of their survey, we still need to do some supplemental work to gather information so we can design those facilities. And so with that being said, it certainly is going to incur some costs to do that, and we don't have a task order. Matter of fact, on short notice, I had asked the DOT for the files on Friday. I just received them this morning, so I really haven't had a chance to process what the level of effort was going to be. At this point, I'm assuming it's going to be a few days of field time out in the field. You know, my range is probably, $7,000 to $9,000 is where I'm kind of targeting this might be for an effort to get this picked up. And then there's going to be obviously some design effort to follow that, but that might come later. The reason I wanted to kind of get this out front right now, well, 2 things. I wanted to beat the snow, but that's kind of funny because we all realized what happened this weekend. So I didn't do that. But the second thought here is that we do have to call in locates or marks for utilities and get some of the information picked up, and that takes several days or a week. Plus, I know that obviously to get some type of approvals, we're going to need to make sure that we get task orders in here. And so I kind of wanted to kind of get this out in front of you guys a little bit to get thinking about it. Just maybe if I can get a warm and fuzzy so we could get locates called in, so in our waiting period, we're at least waiting for those to clear while we're getting ready to process and get some authorization on this. And if we can get information picked up, that gives me a couple weeks. I don't know if we're going to make the deadline, but at least it's a fighting chance to say we're working on it and at least get them turned something around by the beginning of the year. Normally, I think we usually get a little more notice on these things. The DOT doesn't operate all that quickly. Now that Jim's gone, I can say that. But with that being said, I just want to kind of throw that out there for any questions or thoughts or process or what you guys have any questions regarding that. So I guess obviously there's no action tonight, but just kind of be aware of it. That's kind of where we're at right now, kind of what the DOT's asking and kind of what's in my mind about how I'd like to kind of get at least the ball rolling on this unofficially and then get some type of approval in here.
Any questions for Jason? So seeing none, then the task order would come back to the council at the next meeting?
That's what I would like.
Okay.
That way we can come direct to the council. If we get some approval that way, we can obviously move forward fairly quickly then.
Patrick?
But just to be clear, and maybe Jason was, that work will be starting between now and the task order to beat the conditions.
At least the survey component of it. I'd like to at least get some boots on the ground for a few days to do that. The design work, obviously, that we'll have the task order in place and we'll have some design hours coming in to supplement the survey work. So obviously, again, the survey is not a big number, but there is a few days worth of effort there in addition to the digger's hotline and getting going here. So
Any questions for Jason?
So did you say that you may not be able to get this done anyway?
It's over the holidays, with Christmas coming and stuff, so we really kind of, staff-wise, I kind of lose staff, on vacations and stuff. And if I can get the survey data, if we clear diggers in a few days, I can get survey out there for a few days. I'm at least a week to 10 days out just to get data in the office. So that's putting me around the 15th or so. That gives me 2 weeks with a short holiday week in between to deliver something. I think we can kick something out to the DOT to show that we have an idea of what utilities we're replacing. Their idea of 30% plans is pretty loosely defined, and so I think as long as we're coordinating with them and we can trade some files and indicate what we're trying to do, I think even if it's not, January 2nd, we have something laying on their desk, perfect. I think they'll be more than happy, and so we'll be able to work with them. That's at least the indication I got from the DOT staff when I called about the files, because I said, boy, if you're talking 30% plans as us getting some information laid out and a plan view and some concepts, we can probably work that. But if you're talking, plans and design and numbers on them, we're probably not going to get there. So they seem to be okay with at least getting as much as we could to them by the beginning of the year. So.
And then you were only, the 7,000 to 9,000 would only be for the
survey.
Farnham
Yeah.
part of it, not the TIF 4.
Yeah, I apologize. I kind of took these in pieces. My main focus right now, because of the urgency and the schedule, is Farnham, because somebody's asking for us to prepare something and has a deadline. The second piece of this was similarly on TIF 4. At the last meeting I wasn't in attendance at, I believe you reached a memorandum of understanding with one of the developers. And so part of that was obviously designing utilities. Now, there isn't a sunset clause other than, we know that these utilities aren't going to be constructed till next year. But with like any project, the sooner we get the data in and the longer we have to design it, the more efficient projects go. So my hope was that we could get some survey work picked up yet this year. Again, my hope last week was, we could do it while the ground was still snowless. And we will have to get some soil borings for some geotechnical work and some other things. But I did want to see if we could get started on that. Now, I would say certainly both these items we wanted to discuss tonight. If there's anything that I just need to get going on, it's 89. The TIF thing, we can wait to do the survey until we come back, especially already since there's been snow now. What snow does is snow just covers up the utilities. If there's marks, they have to remark it. What also happens with snow is it's just slower to pick up data. I mean, I got staff out there trudging through snow, and they're not as efficient. And it's just something we like to beat the snow if we can, but it's not that we can't do it if there's snow on the ground. So with the TIF 4, the urgency doesn't exist, but I would still like to at least propose to bring a task order forward to get that project started too, if that's the direction we're going to be going, obviously, with that project. So I just, again, real early stages here, getting both of these kind of kicked off with survey. Designs will follow, but at least with 89, I wanted to kind of get a jump and get crews out there as soon as possible, so we had a little time to get something back to the state.
So 2 separate task orders?
Yeah. Definitely they would be separate task orders, but I think they got put together on the agenda just because we wanted to talk about, survey related to getting out there and getting data picked up for both these projects.
That makes sense.
Anything else?
So are you going to start on the TIF 4 stuff at the same time, or are you going to wait?
Well,
Because it snowed.
I guess the thought for me is if I could put our survey crews out at the same time, I would have people here, so if they finished up with a half a day left on one project, they could start the next one right away and, spare going back and coming up for an extra trip, that type of thing. So I think there's an economy or a little efficiency and scale to do it together. But again, it doesn't have to be, and it may not even work out that way. So, I mean, to me, if I can get my surveyors out there and just get it all picked up, then as it gets colder and windier and it snows more, we're warm and comfortable in the office and we have all of our data picked up. I don't have to worry about, logistics about picking something up in January, when the weather gets even worse than it is now. So,
Thank you.
yep.
All right. Any other questions for Jason? All right, seeing none, then we'll see that next time.
Thank you.
Item 9, then we have a memorandum of understanding between the City of Columbus and Columbia County Senior Nutrition Program. And this is an annual thing. A couple years ago, we did get the rate increased. I think there's no chance of that going up any further. So unless there are any questions, this will come to the next meeting. And I'm seeing no questions, so that'll be referred to the next meeting. Then we have 10, which is use of 16 bond proceeds for resurfacing the pool and replacing sand filters at the pool. This was discussed as part of the budget process. Kim is here. Did you want to say anything to start with? We'll start with the finances, okay? Then Amy's also here with anything technical regarding the resurfacing. And she'll be getting then quotes on those items. You have those, so, and I believe those were emailed out. Patrick, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just that, I think we have the mechanism to fund it. It was part of the budget. We just want to make sure that we can work with a vendor to schedule it because, we need to get that project done so it's ready for the
So-
pool season.
Are we looking to go out to bid at this point, or are we looking to just give an approval of use of those funds? I mean, they're kind of the same.
That's what we were looking at right now, to get a direction to say, okay, get the project scheduled. Because I think Amy Jo got the bids.
Okay.
So we would take the appropriate bid and set the schedule.
All
I'm
right.
okay with that.
So that would come to the next meeting then?
We can do that.
This wouldn't address the kitty slide that is in obvious need of repair, or would it?
This part, no. We were talking about doing side fundraising for that.
Yeah, I guess I'd prefer to just borrow it and get it done with one shot, but I don't think I won that battle.
I don't really think that ended up being how it was presented at the end. I think at the end, they just said, they didn't even, we weren't even asked if it wanted to be borrowed. It was just, here, we're gonna do this amount for the pool surface.
Oh, I think we gave our opinion in that budget meeting. That was to look for that avenue that Patrick just said.
I guess what I would say to that is we'll have discussions yet about the bonding and when all the numbers come together and if there's opportunity,
Perfect.
there's always that.
The ship hasn't sailed. All right. Keep fighting for the slide.
All right. Anything else?
Does this plan include any remediation for the black mold or algae that's currently troubling us?
This would take care of that issue.
Okay.
And Amy Jo's here, she can speak more technically, but that's been my understanding throughout the whole project.
Oh, sure.
So the resurfacing of the pool, what that would do is they would actually, in the spots that are really bad, tear away that plaster all the way down to the rebar. The sides that are not that bad, they'll just sand it down and then just replaster the whole pool. So that'll take care of any black mold that's there. It's just like a brand new pool. So
How long would that last?
it should be 20 to 25-year warranty.
25?
Mhm. Provided our chemicals, we have to maintain a chemical log
Yeah.
and provide them all that data, and as long as we stay within that area, the warranty's good.
How old is the surface now?
About 17, 16?
16, 17 years old,
Okay.
but the chemical spill from a while ago
Yeah.
aged about 10 years and just trying to keep up with it, so. Any other questions? No?
All right.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Amy Jo.
Thanks. We'll see that next time then as well. And then we have number 11, Resolution 2716, final resolution authorizing public improvements and levying special assessments against benefited properties. The final roll is here. Jason, do you have anything to add? This is all based on then the revised amounts that were going to be charged, revised percentages.
Correct, Mayor. So the final report incorporates all of the information from the revised July 28th report, which was the last report that was preliminary. The final assessment that you have before you tonight has in all the actual numbers for construction. So that was based off all the field measurements, measuring concrete by the square yard, driveways, rechecking all the storm sewer cost, all the angle parking, curb and gutter costs, splitting that out, that type of stuff. So everything was actual measured. I went back through everything personally myself, checked everything, all the totals, and come up with the numbers from the July report. Just to note, from the July totals that were preliminary, there were some properties that did go up in assessment slightly. There were some that went down, and that was really contributed to the final measurements. Several property owners did ask for adjustments to the project during construction, such as, can you make my driveway a little wider? Can you make it a little smaller? And so those minor adjustments would have a bearing on, the final outcome of the number. So I feel very confident that the report is accurate and everything in there has been verified. So we wanted to bring it forth tonight in finalized form for your consideration.
Any questions for Jason? All right, seeing none, then that would be voted on at the next meeting, and then at that point it would be charged against the properties, and proper billings would be sent, and then it would be on the next year's tax bill would be the first year that it would show up. All right, sounds good. That'll move forward then. Finally, we have item 12, a minor overage in a sewer line item. So that's being reported, and any comments or discussion on that? All right, so we're all good there. And then I would entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session per state statute 1985 sub 1 sub G to confer with legal counsel for the governing body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved.
Motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll.
Crombie,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Palat,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Buell,
Aye.
Draxler,
Aye.
unanimous.
All right, thank you. We will be going into closed session. There will be no further action taken in open session tonight, so we will not be returning on the air for that. So thank you.